The other ones were over there off of Miori. I forget what they were called.
So 37 years you've been on the TV airwaves of Victoria, Texas. That's amazing.
What's the biggest story you ever covered? They played in all of them, Don. Tom Brady's played in
They've been in every Super Bowl since he broke into the NFL.
Yeah, I mean it's the Brady Bowl. Like a scaffold, but
Yeah.
no kidding.
So Waco, Beaumont, and Victoria, we know how they rank in Super Bowl media coverage. They give you the outside the stadium live shots.
Outside the stadium. We're live outside of NRG Stadium. We're inside at this moment. There's a ball game being played.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
37 years of Victoria, Don, but how many years in the industry? Oh,
wow. Hey, Don, at
least he got a chance to quit. He just didn't walk in and they told him, "Hey, you're done."
They only asked him to edit that one time because at the end, as Al Michaels is screaming, he cut it short. Do you believe? And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. He cut it right there. So, and Al Michaels said something else after that. How about have you ever felt like you had that iconic moment where, like Michaels? I mean, that's that sealed who he is. Do you believe in miracles? I mean, that is synonymous with Al Michaels, and it's like it's not even his catchphrase; it's like his trademark. Have you ever, with the humor aside of "Stay classy, San Diego"? Do you have anything that you go, I said it again, or this is what I've always come back to? Do you have anything like that in your mind? I like that. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Well, and not that
It just shows you the impact you had on these young men and women that you covered all those years.
Yes, Kendall's in town. She told me to tell you hi. And it's a similar relationship with Victoria that our friend and mentor, Brother Gary Moses, has with the community. And we really, really appreciate, very proud for you as you celebrate 37 years in broadcasting in Victoria, and just hope you have a great day at the station.
Congrats on the milestone, Don. Well-deserved accolades. My favorite memory is UHV and you coming to MC our banquets over the years, and without any notes, knew something about every player we talked about. Just simply amazing. The cornucopia encyclopedic knowledge that's locked upstairs.
Cecilia is his producer, and she's out there with a program going, say this, Don, say this, Don. Whatever you put on the teleprompter, he'll read. Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Knows them all. That's so awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, he knew his role. I was at a Stros game later in his career, but he was still broadcasting, and he would stand up in the seventh inning and throw bags of peanuts out to the kids and stuff. And there was this kid sitting next to me going, Milo, over here. And I said, kid, you're doing it all wrong. And I looked up and I said, hey, Hall of Famer. He just turned and winged me a sack of shags. I mean, he threw them right to me overhand. I handed them to the kid. I said, you got to learn some respect, kid. Man's a Hall of Famer. Don, you're a Hall of Famer to us, sir. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Congratulations and thanks for the call, Don.
Hope you have a great week. We'll see you soon, buddy. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks, Don.
Go
Appreciate
get
it. Go
Good
get
luck,
him.
sir. Take
Look
care,
forward to
buddy.
the next 37 years.
Yes, sir. 37 more.
Bye-bye.
Bye, buddy. That's awesome, folks. That was Don Brubaker.
Long time
Let's let-
sports director.
Let Mike Mercer try to trump that. But we'll take a quick break and then we'll
Well,
talk.
we didn't even get to this morning.
Oh, the weather?
Yeah.
What is it?
Good
It's
question.
hot outside. It's going to get hotter.
Yeah.
It's still dark.
We had some issues
So
with
it's really
internet
cloudy.
right off the bat too. So
76 degrees in Victoria and going to a high today of only 87, but it is foggy. It's overcast and dark right now.
missed the Deer and Beer event at Deerland last night, but deer corn will be on sale all next week. So get over there, get a jump on it. I was there yesterday. They were unloading pallets of deer corn, so they're ready.
They're hunting headquarters.
Absolutely.
Got a problem on the side of the road? Call Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Allen is your go-to tow-to. Get you to Atzenhofer, where you can get that ding repaired, get the transmission fixed. Since 1926, Atzenhofer is Victoria's dealership. And then, of course, today, a Friday, Terry Murray works on Friday.
Motto Mortgage.
Mortgage is a great place to call.
541-5454.
That's exactly right.
That's what I'm gonna call.
541-5454. Terry Murray will tell you. She'll ask you three probably very simple questions. How long you lived in your house? Or how many years do you have left on your mortgage?
What you pay for it? What do you
What's
think
your
it's worth?
current rate?
Yep.
You know, if she can lower your interest rate, it makes perfect sense. If you're going to be there more than 3 or 4 years, you can roll the charges in and amortize them. It's very, very, very smart business. Call her today. We'll catch the rest of the. You know what? I want to let BJ Nelson and the folks at White Trash Services help sponsor this segment. 550-1826. White Trash Services. The Nelsons are very committed to community and family and education, and they're helping bring you this time with Mike Mercer, who is the president of VISD School Board.
Yeah, we'll visit Mike and then we'll get into some of the other stuff
I'll go turn
after
that.
this. So you want?
He's better looking. He's kind of a paid spokesperson kind of guy. And look, he looks so.
I'm closer.
He looks so Baylor Bear-esque today. You have to represent.
Who knows what conference we'll be in 2 years?
Right?
We'll be the Pac-12.
You got to represent. Yeah, exactly. Well, at least not this year.
Not this year.
Yeah.
Well,
One thing I know is it always changes.
plus, you're still undefeated as of today, so you can wear that green with pride.
Exactly.
They-
Right. National champion.
Ain't letting no Christian school into the Pac-12.
Yeah, you're probably right. But we shall see.
I don't know. There a lot of rumors that BYU could end up there.
That's true. Yeah.
So
Like I said, they ain't letting no Christian school into
Woo, let's just draw that line right
the
there.
cult of the Mormons.
Yeah.
speaking of, you see, before we get, did you see Mitt Romney's Facebook post yesterday?
Yeah.
In talking about the tragedy in Afghanistan, and may G bless the troops and their
That
families.
was weird. Right?
G,
G.
God.
I
Yeah,
mean, at least it was a capital G.
Capital
I thought that
G.
was really odd.
yeah.
Well, when you're Mitt Romney and you're a tenured senator, you can.
You're trying to be hip, I guess. I don't know.
G.
That was not a good look for him, but
Sound like a rapper.
And
Yeah.
you know, I was never a guy. I guess it was just respect. I mean, it's not like I don't get mad at people that do it, but I never called it Xmas either.
Right.
And I don't know if that's it's Christmas. I mean,
Right.
it's a holiday. I don't call it R for Ramadan. It's not R.
Right now.
You Hey, enjoy P for Passover. I mean,
E for Easter, whatever.
right? It's craziness.
Yeah. I think there's a history behind the X. They go beyond just shortening it now. It was a Christian symbol when the church was retained.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there is some historical significance to it, but most people throw it around right now just to shorten it and make it easy.
So you're a Baptist, but you're also an apologist. Okay, I'm with you.
For just about everything.
Right, for everything.
Almost every single subject.
So there's that Baylor education paying off.
Exactly.
Right. Well, he probably did actually learn that at Baylor, right? During the,
Yeah, Old Testament.
Sure.
Flanders, yeah, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
right?
Very well. Great.
I think everybody had Dr. Flanders at
Oh
Baylor.
my gosh, he was,
the
yeah,
guy.
he was, and it's so funny because do you ever watch The Simpsons?
Mhm.
Okay, so Flanders,
Ned Flanders.
Ned Flanders is the next door neighbor, and Dr. Flanders taught Old Testament, and the similarities are very, because he was the sweetest man, and I mean, just so sweet, and when he spoke, it was like being in my small country Baptist church. I mean, he had
Awesome.
a lilting voice that always.
Was he a pastor who happened to teach? Yeah.
Absolutely. Back in my day, I think they all were.
So when I was
Back when Baylor was founded?
I was probably
As the oldest continuing operating university in the state of Texas, founded by the Republic of Texas.
I think I was probably maybe a junior in high school. We had a buddy from here, David Hardesty, and many of you folks remember W. Kyle Hardesty was a financial guy, and his son David played ball at Victoria High, and he played basketball at Baylor. And I went to Baylor I was going to spend the weekend up there and just hang out. And Terry Teagle, and there was that era, great guys. The microwave, Vinny was there, and I'm walking across campus, just lost as I could be, This
Back in that day, he really took some
right
effort to
because
get
we're like
across,
4 buildings.
Yeah.
But this really nice man walked up and said, "Hey, son, can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I'm looking for so and so for the dorm." And he said, "Just go right over there and blah blah blah." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Thank you." I said, "I'm Brent Carter from Victoria." And he goes, "Oh, it's very nice to meet you." He goes, "I'm H.H. Reynolds, and I'm from here." And at the time, I didn't know he was the president of the university.
Yeah.
Super nice guy.
Super nice guy. I did a lot of student government when I was at Baylor, and so and Dr. Reynolds was the president the entire time I was there, and so we get to do cabinet meetings with Dr. Reynolds and his cabinet. And as nice as he is, he can be one of the most intimidating people.
Very smart.
Oh my gosh, as a whip, and when he has a point, and by gosh, you're either going to get in line with that point, or you're going to find a whole other lane to get into. And he was great for the university. He did a lot of really good things. Guided us through some really weird times.
No doubt.
Back in the day. Yeah.
Tell us about what's going on. It is interesting to me, and I think it's a compliment to her and you, that it always hits me in the forehead when Ash says VISD school board president, because for as long as I can remember, I always think of Tammy Keeley.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've had several conversations with Tammy lately, and I always end up.
I'm just
learning
amazed
something.
at the speed in which Mike was able to pull
Just
off his
take over
junta
the coup.
to get the presidency.
Because there's nothing like becoming president of the school board to focus all the hate on yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, even people that run for mayor go, "That guy's an idiot. He ran for school board."
And there's that realization when people talk to you and ask you to run for school board, and then you finally make that decision to run for school board. Those same people that talk to you and asked you to run for school board asked you, "What are you thinking?" Yeah,
And then they're
the
gone.
ones that talk me into it. I tell everybody that first year, I'm not lying, that first year was a honeymoon. I mean, a lot of people don't remember, but because of House Bill 3, there were staff raises that happened that very first year that I got to be a part of. There were a lot of really good things. The grants started rolling in at that point in time. Dr. Shepard was in his second year. Things were really starting to move, really starting to happen. And then COVID. And I mean, I wish everybody deals with it in a different way. And I wish I could really paint the picture of what it means to take something as large as VISD, as that school district, with close to 13,000 students, how it is to try to pivot that on a different way. And I'm not making excuses or anything else. And I don't want anyone to believe that or to think that that's what's going on here. But it was a Herculean effort, and to this day, it still is a Herculean effort to continue to guide us through this whole thing, because as you mentioned earlier, with the numbers that that keep moving, whether people are dying or not, people are getting sick, people are having to quarantine.
Right.
That's a massive disruption, especially when you think about staff and teachers and all that sort of thing. It's a massive disruption to the system. So it's constantly every day is a new day when it comes to doing that. So had that honeymoon year, which I'm so thankful for and so grateful for,
Right.
and then to move into the COVID. And you and I had a conversation the other day about, at some point in time, there's just a lot of people that are angry with the district. There's a lot of people that feel like, something's been wrong, or something happened wrong, or something they didn't agree with, or maybe there's a trust issue, or whatever the case may be. And you had made the comment the other day that, somebody just needs to stand up and say, we're sorry, kind of thing. And it's so hard to try to pinpoint all those different things to come out and apologize for. And to be quite honest with you, some of them probably don't need to be apologized for. But one thing I want to do, because last week, a friend made it apparently clear to me how much graduation 2020 hurt them and their family. And so this morning, that's one of the things I did. That was a tough time. Initially, it was going to be virtual. Our students at VIS rose up and used their voices, and they're really what got the ball moving. We at least have an in-person graduation. It wasn't traditional in any way, shape, or form, but for a lot of people, that was hard. And so I am sorry. I mean, I guess I'm not sorry that COVID went on, because that was beyond my control. But I am sorry that it impacted people. And I think anyone who's ever been in a position where they have to make decisions that impact other people know that no matter how good that decision is, no matter how perfect that decision,
Yes.
no matter how perfect that decision seems at the time, it's always going to have some negative consequences.
Yeah.
It's a ripple, and it doesn't hit everyone the same. And so for those that have been affected by those ripples,
And when one thinks is inconsequential, others it's consequential.
Exactly right. I mean, because even on that one situation right there, I'm thinking, this was a massive victory. We've moved on from just having a TV presentation to actually letting these students walk in their cap. I mean, to me, that was sort of kind of a victory, but in other people's eyes, I see where that was, where that hurt them. So when those ripples hit our community, I mean, I will be the first to stand up and say, I'm sorry that it affected you that way. I will always tell you, we're going to make the absolute best decision that we possibly can with the information we have at the time. Unfortunately, it's not going to. It's not going to.
Well, in hindsight's 2020, and at the time, everybody thought you had to shut everything down, and we realized that really doesn't have a whole lot of effect on these spikes that are going on with the virus, and so now we've learned to adjust.
Right. Exactly.
But the other side of that pancake is, I remember, and he never made excuses about it, but the reality was, Ash decided to play baseball this year to an empty stadium.
Right.
And
The idea being
and softball.
that if Ash or Diane or one of his coaches got sick, the program shut down.
Right. Exactly.
He doesn't have a staff.
And then you think about the number of people that affects.
And then nobody was. I mean, that was our concern. If we're such a small operation, if one of us went down, everybody's impacted.
Well, and what you learn through their process is there's 1,000 other people with another solution out there, which is great and wonderful, but ultimately you bear the responsibility for that decision. So you had to do, with the information you had to do the best that you could at that point in time. But anyway, so I do want people to understand that, we don't set out to be your enemy. We don't set out to make your life harder or rougher or anything else. It's just that sometimes even the best decisions are going to hit people in different ways. And it's not always going to be what everybody wants. But I will say this, man. I have been so overjoyed because the last couple of board meetings we've had close to a full house at Boda. And I love and I don't come and yell at me. And your comments come and tell me I'm horrible and tell me I'm I've got a pitchfork and horns and a tail, whatever.
We just communicate.
You hide them well, though.
Everybody thinks you're such a nice guy.
Yeah. Right. That's my children.
Right.
But it is so empowering to see the community show up. And again, I don't care if we're on opposite ends of this. I want to hear what you have to say, because there may be something in all of that that resonates, that says, you know what, that's a good point. Let's try to pivot around that. And so it is so important. I will tell you the number of phone calls and emails that I've received over the last month probably trumps everything that I have received in 2.5 years prior.
So what are you feeling from the pulse of the community regarding? So I one quick step back. Ash and I here, because now that it's all said and done, we can both say we both supported both bonds, both on the air and personally.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel the community is on voting for the next bond? Because we both agree that you need $50 million. You need it now for maintenance and rehab.
And and if you look at the numbers that are critical, 50 is not even quite halfway there, and that's for the critical repairs. The long-term critical repairs that will get us the next 7-8 years. I mean, I think the initial number, and they pared it down. The initial number was close to 120 million, and they're exactly. And another thing I want people to understand, I know it's so easy to say, well, you neglected it, you didn't do the maintenance and all that other kind of stuff. And one of the task force members made an incredible point, and they're brilliant, and I wish I would have thought of it. But he's like, okay, so how can you explain that a school like Patty Welder is still inhabitable and fine and great, but Strongman's not? I mean, are you just taking better care of one? No, you're not really. It's just different buildings have their own unique problems.
We built better buildings in the 1930s
exactly
than we did
in the 60s.
In the 60s and 70s. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And you see that over and over and over again. But I just, so when we talk about those numbers, and since you brought up the bond, the important thing to remember here is that this time it's me. One of the biggest feedbacks we got is, hey, we'd like to make some decisions. We may not be for everything, but we're for some of it. We understand. And so this year, the bond is going to be submitted to the public on the ballot. There's going to be a Proposition 1, which is a voter-approved tax rate election, okay? VATRE. And that affects what we call our maintenance and operation budget. Just what it takes to run the district on a daily basis. Not build anything, not major repairs, just what it gets to run on a daily basis. Entirely, that VATRE is going to teacher salaries. Or staff salary. I shouldn't say teacher because it covers custodians, it covers maintenance staff, it covers the whole rent, but that goes to staff salaries. Now, this last budget session, we approved a 4% raise across the board for our staff. That's happening. That's not going away. The VAT.
That's excellent.
Yeah, and long overdue. I mean, how we look at, again, you're in education, how you and I on the outside have looked at this pandemic is an entirely different viewpoint than people that have been inside trying to weather the storm. And that's permanent, okay? The VATRE will ensure that stays, in perpetuity, because what will happen is we've got ESSER funds. And so a portion of those ESSER funds are going to pay those salaries if the VATRE doesn't pass. But they will run out.
Right.
And at that point in time, you're not going to cut people's salaries. So then you start looking at, I need to start cutting programs. I need to start cutting back on in order to keep your budget.
Or positions don't get filled when we're retirement, things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is happened. Attrition in positions. I mean, I think the other day I was talking to Dr. Moonwell and Dr. Shepard, and there's somewhere between, it's close to around 150 positions have been absorbed in the last 5 years.
And I think that's smart.
It is extremely smart, and it is efficient. And a lot of times people say, well, I'm voted or whatever the case may be. And seeing is believing, because I thought the same thing. Seeing is believing. So, man, if somebody wants to take a tour of the administration building, or somebody wants to take a tour of anything, just pop up, ask, request. These guys are more than willing to accommodate that and just show you. Yeah, it's a big building, but literally less than 20% of it is taken up by central administration.
Do you think, and by the way, folks, everybody should know, but we're visiting with Mike Mercer, VISD School Board President. Do you think that this monument building type, if you go over to the Woodlands, and there's College Heights of the Woodlands, big, it looks like Baylor.
Yeah.
You're like, do we need that? Are we not better suited building more adaptable, big metal buildings, for example, with movable walls and partitions and to a degree disposable buildings that 10 years from now, if this building's it's a metal building, it's $100 a foot. It's not $450 a foot. Scrape it and build another one.
Right, and that's an excellent question. And those
Except
are
there's the
questions-
misnomer. Metal buildings aren't significantly cheaper right now.
That is
Well,
true. Yeah,
well,
that is true.
but I mean-
building
but yeah.
anything. I mean, I looked at the price of PVC pipe. It's up another 50%.
Yeah.
over 2 weeks.
Right.
It's so yeah, that is true. That's a good point. Nothing is really cheap right now. And I think those are great questions. As far as monuments, I don't really think that's what I think we're all concerned more about what's inside that building
And what comes out,
and
because
exactly.
I don't know anybody who's moved here because we had two great looking high schools when they were built. That didn't draw anybody to Victoria.
Right.
What will help bring them here and keep them here is what's being produced out of our
It's the
schools
program.
and the programming.
I use that word loosely because people.
Yeah, no, I know, but yeah,
it
the
is-
outcomes.
It's the outcomes. It's the programs that are in place. It's the CTI. It's the STEM. Those are the things that draw people in because those things aren't. I mean, Quero I read the other day that they, because of a very generous corporate donor, they've started STEM on one of their campuses. They created a STEM classroom in one of their campuses, which I think is phenomenal and wonderful. But outside of that, we will be the hub for that type of thing. So yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily what the building looks like on the outside. You talked about it a while ago, adaptable, movable walls. And when we sat down and did strategic planning with the community for VISD, that was one of the things that was presented is what direction does VISD want to move? Do you want a building that's adaptable, that you can break it into a small classroom and then you can open it up into a lab, or the walls that move back and forth so that a general space can serve 4 functions type of a thing. And everybody's like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing. It's efficient, it's economical. Plus, you don't worry about students transferring up and down the halls, or you got them and you've got
One big Montessori.
Unless those partitions aren't thick enough to block out the sound from the class going on next to you, and then you have issues because,
And that's true. That is
we've all been to that hotel at a wedding and you hear the wedding next to you, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
That is a good point. I mean,
I'm glad you went that direction.
I think
I didn't know where he was going with
I
that.
think that our schools should reflect our community. I think they should reflect our values type of thing. Like Mission Valley. I mean, there's something really beautiful about Mission Valley. I mean, the oldest school site, continuously operating school site, second oldest building, elementary building in the state. There's something cool about that. So if that were to pass, I'm one guy, but I would think that people that lived out there would like for it to be something that paid homage
Sure.
to that sort of thing. But those are things that, again, will be figured out later, unfortunately, because we can't hire an architect. We can't.
There's so many comments. And I only point this out because this is only the second time on record that I've agreed with Pete McNally. And yesterday was the other. Pete is absolutely
He's on a roll.
our top listener of the week. And Peter says it's all about money. Open breezeways was a cheaper construction method back in the 60s and 70s. And he's exactly right. I go back to my Victoria High days, and you got to do what you got to do to maximize space for the monies you've got available.
Oh, absolutely.
But we had, we liked the times that we got to go. Oh, I get to go to the old building. You could go outside, walk down the breezeway, even when it was hot, just to get outside for a minute.
All
Go
the
back
elementary
in.
schools are doing.
Yeah.
And every single elementary school, with the exception of 5th and 6th grade. That was the only contained building we had. Junior high was open. And in the back, now it's all closed now. It's all closed in, and the hallways are air conditioned and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, it was, and as a kid, to be quite honest with you, we loved it. I mean, we got there, it was like 5-minute recess every time we changed class, and we took full advantage of it. And I wish times were,
I don't know. I always liked the packed hallways where, the kids would knock somebody's binder out of their hand and that sort of thing.
You were Canadian.
yeah, exactly.
I remember those.
We didn't want to go.
You were a John Hughes kid. We're like a John Grisham.
We didn't want to.
Right.
Our history was a little bit.
We didn't want to go outside in December when it's 40 below.
Well, yeah, you could kind of flash freeze, I guess. Like, where's Billy? Oh, no, he's still outside. But I remember the elation of my first day big as it was, intimidating to me as it was at the time, my first day of 6th grade at Howell, going, I'm going to go to that snack bar and I'm going to eat out here on the picnic table. No more tray and having to go through the line at
So
Smith.
privileged here in Victoria, man. I had to go across the street to a little house called the school store. It was right across the street from elementary school. It was 5th and 6th grade, which was Sam Houston at the time, and Edna Junior High. And so, and our parents had an account there.
Get a moon pie and a dip.
Dude, there was a Frito pie with Funyuns, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it was, but yeah, we didn't have anything like that on our campuses that time.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the program. How can we help? Who we got? We're
Hello.
here.
Hello.
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 We're good. Who we got?
Adam,
Hey,
how are you?
How are you?
You have a question or a comment? No, do you have a question or a comment?
You made the point of the STEM program in Colorado coming from a corporate, donor, I guess you could say. How can that help Victoria or VISD partnership with future corporate, sponsors or corporate businesses come in to help invest in our local students or our local children to help? One, it'll bring in relieve pressure from property tax owners, and two, it'll bring in economic development for our new companies coming in that are, one, investing in our students, two, investing in our local colleges, and three, providing additional jobs to our community. One, that'll raise economic development for our local community. Let's bring additional businesses, bring more people in here. It'll advertise, like you were saying, that who would have come to Victoria because of the big schools. Things like that would help, increase and benefit Victoria and be able to compete against places like, Cuero, Houston, Corpus, stuff like that, because they have a lot of businesses, and I'm sure they have an increased donations from the corporate donors. It'll let them be able to invest in the community and be able to get a return out of it.
All right.
That's a
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate the call. So basically, he's saying, why isn't Victoria raising some money from the corporate donors?
Hey, what I think I speak for the entire district.
I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that seemed to be
but
kind of what he
that's
was
a-
getting at.
That's a really good point, and the doors are open. So, I mean, I doubt very seriously if the district would ever turn down a corporate sponsor that came in and wanted to do that. I mean, that's been one of the driving forces. Cuero's a little different because the dollar goes a lot further there. I mean, when you're talking about 3,000 or 4,000 students versus 13,000, $100,000 there goes a long way, much further than it will here. And that, that's one point. So the corporate donation could be a lot smaller and make a much bigger impact in a smaller district. Here, Dr. Shepard and the administration over the last 5 years, I think we're well over 17 million in grants.
Right.
That's
They've
the other
done
way.
genius work
Right,
with that.
that's the other way. I mean, the whole STEM program, the project-based learning program, all of those are being built with non-local tax. Well, I say non-local. I mean, all the money goes somewhere.
Sure.
All our money goes somewhere, but it's not reflected in what you pay in property taxes. It has been yeoman's work on what they've done, and it's made these programs possible. Well, obviously you'd like to have the facilities to really harness that, sort of like taking a rocket off on a gravel road versus a launching pad. You'd really rather have the facilities to run those programs to their fullest extent. But I mean, again, to my knowledge, the board has never turned down a donation from a corporate person or an individual or anything else.
Zach Smith asked, is VISD making any special requirements at, say, athletic events? Are we going to have any
Crowd restrictions.
masks, social distancing, any of that, or is it just common sense?
At this point in time, the district is encouraging people to wash your hands, wear a mask,
Sit as far apart as possible.
Sit as far apart as possible. But really beyond that, it's out of our hands. I mean, that's I think it was yesterday morning I read where San Antonio lost, or the Supreme Court overruled San Antonio's temporary restraint order of
Right.
the governor's mandate and said, no, it needs to play out in the courts. And so at this point in time, that's kind of where we are. So no, there has been no discussion specifically about making any changes yet because we're still under the governor's mandate.
BJ Nelson asked, she says, ask Mike about Midcoast Academy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Midcoast Academy. I had the pleasure of sitting down one morning with DJ and at least Christy over at Midcoast Construction Academy and just talking about it. Of course, what I sat down with them as Mike Mercer, Mercer Construction, Mike Mercer.
Yeah, you're looking for some cheap labor.
No, I'm all about building the labor pool. But we've got a family foundation. And so, when my grandfather died, we started a foundation and we award scholarships every year to students in Jackson County because that's where most of our employees come from, is Jackson County. And we're always interested in what can we do to boost CTE? What can we do to boost vocational education? What can we do to help train people with skills, to move on to that next level? And so we had a wonderful conversation with them. I know that Midcoast has worked with Edna High School. I know they've worked with Ganado High School. I believe they've also worked with Industrial High School over there. So that morning we sat down. It was more about, tell me your plan. How can we as a foundation help you move forward? But they're a phenomenal organization to partner with. And I know that we've got students even within our district that they go, and I can't say enough good things about them. But again, that's another step outside. UHV has done some remarkable things. VC has done some remarkable things. When you look at our P-TECH career paths and the fact that a student graduates from high school, if they follow that P-TECH path, they can walk out with their associate's degree, go straight in to UHV,
right?
And
where they could be on the curling team,
could be
on the future curling team, and literally walk out in 2 years. 2 years after they graduate high school, be accredited, whatever the case may be, and hopefully because the community has poured so much into them, they decided to stay around. Like, hey, this was great for me. It'll be great for my kids.
I just dog Ash all the time about. You know what I just sounded like? I realized when I did it, I sounded like Forrest Gump when he was telling Jimmy, "You should come home to Greenbow, Alabama." Sorry, I broke up your Black Panther party.
Let's bring this back to kind of where we started with the bond, because I know,
I'm sorry.
Well, no, but I think
so much.
But besides the 4 points, I mean, if you look at the votes, the last one you could say was almost a mandate that the community does not want a bond. I mean, it was. Right. So why this time? Why should Victoria step up this time around and vote for the bond? Because those are the conversations I'm having. Right. That they just haven't seen. There's some trust issues with bad decisions, and in the past, we were told, paraphrasing different conversations, we were told consolidation was the answer. It didn't really be the answer. We were told deconsolidation was the answer. Not sure yet. I mean, it's still fairly new, but I think property tax is always a big issue.
That's a good point.
And I do agree, Stroman needs to be bulldozed. It's falling apart. It's a problem, but I think voters want to know why. Why should we support this bond when we didn't support the last two?
Well,
how do you sell those? How do you sell the 65% of people that don't want to vote?
When it comes to selling those things, I don't do that from the book. So I forgive me, but I'm gonna first of all let me finish from the board table and just talk about what the options are in there. First, I talked about Proposition 1, which was the DATRE, which is exclusively to our maintenance and operations account. Two accounts, maintenance and operations, and then our INS, which is our bond fund, so to speak, versus our operations fund. That goes to our operations fund. That's used for staff salaries and education materials.
Which everybody's always saying. On the last bond, the naysayer said, what does this do for our teachers?
Yeah,
right, that's it.
This does nothing for our teachers.
So that's
this does. One specifically, and the beauty of compression. I mean, everybody complained about their tax bills this year, or the valuations jumping up. But the beauty of that is when that happens, the state comes back and they compress our rate. So that VATRE, no tax increase. It is not going to change your rate this year if you vote for the VATRE. Okay. So again, realize that as those values go up, what the state allows us as a baseline for taxes, it shrinks. Okay. So
Right.
we don't get all that. We only get X amount of dollars we get like a little over $6,100 per student, regardless of what you pay in taxes. That's it.
Right.
That's all we get for the M&O fund. So, but that's the first one. So I think that is important for the community to understand what that does. Then there's a Proposition A, a Proposition B, and a Proposition C, which are bond issues. Proposition A is right at $91 million, and it's for those critical repairs. And again, the last numbers that we got, that's about 30 million short to do everything we need to do, but it'll keep us moving forward for not forever, but for a period of time. So that's 91 million for our HVACs, our roofs, plumbing, electrical, the building envelope, sealing it off, make sure there's water coming in from the side, the windows, that sort of thing. That's Proposition A. Proposition B is to build a new Strowman. And it is, I think the tax figure, and again, that 91 million, again, no tax increase. So the VATRE plus the 91 million, no tax increase. Your taxes will not go
We're
up.
just
At least your rate won't. Excuse me. Let me say that. Your rate won't.
right. We're just pushing the debt a little further down the road. I mean, we're extending the debt, if you will, at the current rate that we're paying.
Well, yeah. Well, the rates are lower.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
And that's another reason you're asked why now. I think it's because financially it probably makes sense to deal with the rates are low.
Yeah.
We just talked about refinancing mortgages.
Right.
But so those two, Proposition 1 and Proposition A, no tax rate increase for the community. Build a new Strowman, 6.6 cents. Okay, 6.6 cents. It's gone up from 78 million to 83 million just in the interim of what it would cost to build that. And everybody's like, that's too much. I get those arguments. These are just numbers based on how much per square foot based on the number of students that school, the capacity for that school, which would be a 1,200 capacity student school. And then Proposition C is build a new Mission Valley. And that's like a hair over 2 cents, I think, which would be added to the rate. So for, what is it, 8.6 cents roughly, that's what it would cost. So like, and the important thing is, and another thing, because we've had members of the task force, I'm sorry.
No.
We had members of the task force say, well, it's important people understand how it's going to affect them personally. And I think they're right. So when you talk about 8.6 cents, that's about $86 per year per 100,000.
$300,000 house is going to cost you $250.
Exactly. So that's how much you're.
I mean, at that point, don't be so pinchy.
Well, and again, a lot of times it's about principle. People just don't like property tax.
But if you got a $300,000 house and you can't pay an extra $20 a month to shut up everybody, then move.
Again, I applaud your efforts, but again, for a lot of people, it is like Adam said a while ago. We don't like property tax. We feel like we're paying for our property over and over and over again.
Full disclosure, Caleb Shaw's not listening this morning. Caleb, don't call in if you are listening. Thank you. All taxation.
So how do these pass? 50% of the vote, 50 plus 1, and it's passed. So all four could pass.
They all
stand alone
on their own. Literally, the public can go out and say, "We're voting for Proposition 1." And voting down A, B, C, they could say that we're voting for Proposition 1 and Proposition C, Proposition 1, V, 1A, 1, the whole gamut. I mean, it's really a menu at this point in time. And what I want people to know.
I will applaud the board and the district for this, because I think that was some of the biggest feedback we got is we want a little bit of choice in this.
Exactly.
And now there's some choice.
Exactly. And that's what I took away from a lot of the public comments. Well, we support this, but we didn't support this. We know we need to make repairs, but we're not crazy about building this, or we're not crazy about new construction, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that choice is there for the public this time. But again, it's important to understand for when we talk about property taxes, we didn't invent it, we didn't create it. There's another way to fund. Consumption tax, I take that all day, every day.
In fairness to our listeners, I got people saying, my kids are gone. I still pay school taxes. And I'm moving as soon as I can. It's already overinflated here, though, Brent. Because I'm saying, hey, what's another $20? That are we? And I'm asking Ash as well. Are we ultimately at the public school level, has it gotten so big, so out of control that we're just saying we're bailing on a sinking ship and just give everybody a little bit bigger bucket? Are we? Is it continuously going to go down and we're just bailing with a bigger bucket, being that our bucket being our wallet? Or do we really, like, I've had people tell me that Mission Valley doesn't want a new school.
Yeah, there's some that, I'm sure there's some out there that don't.
Just interesting.
Right. I mean, again, history has shown us that precinct has not responded favorably.
Right.
In the past, and that,
BJ Nelson points out people here who have rent homes and businesses with buildings, it's a lot more than 5 cents to them.
what you're right, exactly, depending on your properties. And so again, I come back down to how it's going to affect you personally. You look at that rate.
These are rich white people problems, BJ. Rich white people.
And that's why I say that's important. Just know how it's going to affect you personally.
Right.
And so as a district, that's one of our obligations is to let people know how it's going to affect them and what's in the vote. Can't tell you to vote for it. Can't tell you not to vote for it. I can only tell you that from a district perspective, this is what's in it. This is how it will affect you. Please make the decision that's best for you at that point in time.
How does this help the outcomes? Because
Yeah,
that's the other discussion.
Exactly what I was going to ask you. How do we get a 5 million
we've been perceptually an underachieving district for 15 or 20 years, maybe a little bit longer, maybe not quite that long. So, and I know in asking this question, we've kind of gone from a D to a C if you were to use a report card type of reading or rating, right? But how does this affect the outcomes to get us to a point where our kids are a B or an A on the outcome as opposed to right at the cut line?
I wish that there was data out there that said, hey, new buildings, you automatically jump. There's not.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just not. And in fact, somebody asked the other day.
But you could argue though that newer facilities that help facilitate learning in today's environment will help.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, why does Walmart build a store and then 12 years later abandon that store and build a different one just right down the road? You know, why do they do it? Well, because that new building fits their model that they're moving forward with better than the old building. The old building, someone else is doing it. I mean, how do I get blowing and going over there? Because it fits their need. And so, yeah,
but Walmart does it with their own money. I'll make that as opposed to my money.
Technically,
well, if I shop there, but still,
and they get tax abatements. But yeah, you're right. I mean, for the most part, it's their corporate money, and that's fine. I guess if we can charge tuition, I guess we could do the same thing. But so yeah, I mean, there is that. Do we have a building that suits the needs of our students? Secondly, is do our buildings cause our students to lose time in the classroom? Is there an issue that if the AC goes out? Is there an issue that if the roof leaks? And granted, those will all be taken care of with repairs. What does that do? Does that force these kids? Look what's happening in Stroman. I mean, we've got kids all moved over to the Liberty campus now, and we're still waiting on the final report of the cost on remediation for Stroman. As that happens, as the year progresses and credit recovery starts to get larger, or heaven forbid, Mitchell starts to get the DAP gets bigger and bigger, we're going to get a pinch point at some point in time. And so you've got to know that because of the facilities, we just disrupted an entire 800 person student body. So the other thing is if we have updated facilities, there's the hope that you can avoid a lot of that disruption.
You know, I get torn on this. I'm the child of an educator. My mother spent her entire career in public school education, and not just because you're here. I think the world of you. I know where your heart's at on this. I know that you're giving because you care, and I know that that you've also been greatly enlightened since you got behind the curtain. And I know you're not a puppet, and I know that you're not talking the party line, and I know that you take Dr. Shepard to task when you have to, and all those positives. But I'm reading these comments over here, and if I'm being honest with you, these people are not saying, hey, Mike, thanks for your selfless giving. These people are saying, why should I? Seems pretty silly to have to be bailing water without plugging the holes. Victoria has the highest taxes of anybody in this region, and
that I know is not true.
Yeah, and that's the hard part is there's so much misinformation out there. And I tell people the simple message always wins. And if somebody gets up and says, our tax rate is higher than anyone else's, it's very easy. You and I had a conversation. Industrial just established their tax rate. It's higher.
Raised it.
Yeah, it's higher than our tax rate. Cuero is infinitesimally higher. I mean, like $1.50 in Cuero.
Yeah.
But people are flocking to these districts. Why?
Well,
They're gonna ruin
they're
them.
smaller, and I don't know if they're. And again, I don't know how much is flocking because again, we've got a housing shortage here in Victoria.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't. But school age children, we're not seeing a major dip in that anywhere in any part of the
Right.
state, south, north. It doesn't. I mean, we're not really seeing a dip anywhere. I get that, man, and I do. And you mentioned that a while ago about being enlightened once you get there. I was that guy. This is not efficient. We're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
why
like
you
this. I
ran.
can't-
You ran to make
Exactly.
changes.
You run to make changes, and then you get in there and you realize, okay, there's a lot of things at play. And I know that doesn't work well when you tell that to the community that there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, there really, really is. When we talk about outcomes in the last 5 years, the amount of ground that we have gained would surprise you. I mean, when you sit down and we look at the number of children that we've identified with gifted and talented, why is that important? Because they get additional instruction, they get challenged more. I mean, that has increased over, gosh, I think it's 4 times the number that we had 5 years
Wow.
ago. We've identified those because we've made it an effort to, because we know the kids that fall in that area need to be challenged on a regular basis. We look at our National Merit Scholars. Those are through the roof now. Our honor students, I mean, we've got the best graduation rate that we've ever had in VISD currently. And again, you can find holes in wherever you look, but the hard part is that misinformation. We got the highest tax rate. We got a low graduation rate. Those just simply don't bear out with the data.
Patrick Strauss makes a good point. I want to read it, and then I want to address it. And I'd like you to rebut my address. He says private school teachers make a lot less than VISD teachers, and in my opinion, provide a much better education. Do you know how old St. Joe's buildings are? My comment to that would be this. St. Joe has the ability to tell your kid who's ADHD to leave. St. Joe has the ability to, number one, it costs extra money over and above your taxes to go to St. Joe. That's typically not the single parent working 2 shifts. Kid gets no homework help at night. And that is one of the things that draws down VISD. The single parent family, the latchkey kid, the medicated kid.
Yeah, there's some socioeconomic issues
Absolutely.
in the district that private schools just
And
honestly don't have.
People at St. Joe, whether it be through peer pressure or whatever, they simply don't drop their kids off and go, your problem, raise my kid. And if you don't, I'm going to raise hell about it. VISD gets some of the best and brightest, and they also absolutely get the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, I think we'll phrase that a little bit differently because that is a good point in the sense that.
That's because you're on the school board. I ain't running for nothing. I'm just telling people the truth.
But it is. And again, we talk about why I ran, and I'm not an expert in schools and education. Okay, I'm not. Most of us aren't. But we love this community, and we want this community to thrive. But what we realize is for this community to thrive, to do those things that Adam talked about earlier, to bring those businesses in, we got to create them. We're not leeching off of Houston or Corpus or San Antonio and Austin like all those suburbs. Heck, Wharton's even leeching off Houston now.
Right.
Maybe someday, but right now we're an oasis, which in some ways is beautiful because we determine our course, but in other ways it's tough because we don't get to draw off anything else. So, we got Caterpillar here, and then nothing against Caterpillar, but Caterpillar didn't automatically come in here and bring in high wage jobs.
Right.
And if Caterpillar's stock goes down, what are they going to do? They're going
Close,
to grow and
sure.
lay people off. They may be doing a great job, but they're ran by that stock price. What we got to do as a community is build this community from within. So let's focus on setting our students up to come back and start small businesses that grow into something big, that have an investment in our community. That, it's because I applaud anyone who starts a small business, regardless whether you're an insurance salesman or whatever it is that you do, because you contribute to the community. Victoria has to build from within. We have to start with the youngest members, the
Right.
ones that, that can see that there's a different way.
We're going to have to go in a second here, but Ricky King says, hey, Brendan, if VISD is so good, why are your kids going to industrial? That's a situation I actually inherited, Ricky. Dawn had the kids out there, and Dawn really, really likes just stability. Had they always been at VISD, that's where they would have been. But she lived in the district, and when the kids, especially when they were younger, Caden has expressed a desire to maybe go to West, and we're kind of, for him, kind of say, hey, if you should be in high school, do you want to go to industrial? You want to think about coming to West? And, as you know, they're all changing. When Dawn was little, she went to a lot of different schools, and she's really championed the stability that is industrial. That would have also been the stability that is VISD had she lived in Victoria, but she didn't at the time. So that's a legit question. I don't shy away from that. Michael, there's so much stuff that there's no way to do it in a 20-minute segment. And we need to take 1 minute and thank our sponsors that have taken the time.
Appreciate you stopping by, giving your time and answering the direct questions.
I love the conversation. I love the fact that of course, I mean, I had the advantage, folks, of knowing Mike personally, and we talk about this when we're having downtime. How do we make this better? What would you do? What do you think about this? Why is that perception that way? And remember, never forget, this is an unpaid volunteer. He invites this abuse. So think about that.
And I would argue most candidates end up paying something to run for that office because it's not an easy.
Andy Schneider makes me laugh. It's well played. He said Brent's next campaign slogan: "Just leave if you don't like it." Yeah, you know what? Victoria would be a better place. And I'll tell you, if you get a little Merle Haggard for a theme song on that, I'd be on board. Real quick, folks, to all these great sponsors that have ceded their time to Mike Mercer. VCS Companies, Rocket Oilfield Services, and the only local owner authorized AT&T retailer. Bobby Leon and his great family down at Chesnick Furniture, 116 West Warren Lynn, the corner of Warren Lynn and Bridge, for 101 years. Vera Cruz Restaurant.
Get there today. Can't get there tomorrow.
Give them a call at 576-6015 and order an enchilada casserole. Razor IT Solutions, JP Hull. He and his team can help you with your analytics and everything you need for your website and brand building. The law offices of Steve Kidder. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't make a mistake.
Fix those mistakes.
Don't make a mistake by going it alone. Reach out to Steve Kidder. The complete locations, complete nutrition, complete 360, up on Navarro next to Buffalo Wild Wings and down here on Red River. And then, of course, Wind Services for generators, solar panels, plumbing and electrical, and USA Concrete Coatings for your next polyurethane, no stick, no peel, no fade concrete floor covering. Give them a call. Michael, thank you as always.
Can I say one thing?
No, you